Bismillah ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-khalq wa sayyid al-mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We begin inshaAllah with our second session in the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. The first session was an intro session in which we covered highlights and provided introductory remarks about the necessity of studying the names of Allah Azza wa Jal, how it's at the essence of our faith and at the essence of our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. To summarize that entire session, let me restate a few essential points. Namely that Allah Azza wa Jal is beyond comprehension. Do you remember that? We spoke so much about how Allah is incomparable. There's nothing that can be compared to Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah is infinite, we're finite. He's infinite and we're finite. And the finite, and with our finiteness, we have finite minds. Those finite minds cannot comprehend nor encompass something infinite. So how do we come to know Allah Azza wa Jal then? Well, Allah is so generous and so merciful. He created us, gave us those intellects, albeit limited, but He would never leave the human being without the means to know Him. Allah has dignified and honored the son of Adam, Adam and his children. And He created us with a purpose. And the purpose is to draw near to Allah Azza wa Jal. And through that relationship we gain the happiness. Allah created us to be happy. But that happiness cannot be attained without the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal. And only when we find Allah Azza wa Jal do we become happy. But how do we find Him again? Again, Allah is so generous, will never leave us without a means. And the means that He gave us are through His attributes and names. So He essentially says, if you want to get to know me, and by knowing you will come to actually love me, adore me, and wish to be with me, the means by which you will know me is through my attributes and names, which I will provide to you. SubhanAllah, dear brothers and sisters, an extraordinary subject indeed. These are the keys that allow us to know Allah Azza wa Jalla, the creator of the heavens and the earth. The means, the keys. And if you open the Quran, you'll see repeated mention of the names of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And that's no accident. And by studying these names of Allah Azza wa Jalla, we'll inevitably have to love Allah Azza wa Jalla. So Allah wants to draw us near Him, and He wants us to adore Him. You cannot worship somebody without adoring them. And that's why many of us have a tough time worshiping Allah Azza wa Jal. And even when we come to worship Allah through our prayers, or any other form of worship, or to spend time with Allah, remembering Allah, we have a tough time, and our minds are probably not present. And our hearts are already thinking of something other than Allah. Why is it the case that we're not conscious of Allah when we come to Him and pray and stand up in front of Him? Why is it the case that when we come and read the Quran, the beloved words of Allah Azza wa Jal, our hearts are not present? It's because Allah Azza wa Jal is not known to us. Our minds cannot think of Allah Azza wa Jal. We do not adore Allah Azza wa Jal. We do not love Him as He should be loved, nor revere Him as He should be revered. So how do we gain this reverence of Allah? The knowledge of Allah that will really make us adore Him, that will make us wish like or care less if there is none in our lives but Allah. Where we say, Alhamdulillah, all I need is Allah Azza wa Jal. A type of love that really allows us to wish to meet Allah. A type of knowledge that makes us yearn to see Him one day. That knowledge, once again, is attainable by getting to know Allah through His attributes and names. How generous is Allah that He gave us those names. He could have kept them as a secret, but He says no. And these are simple names, profound in their meaning but simple. The terms themselves are comprehensible to our minds, because we have limited minds. So He gave us terms that we can comprehend. Yet they conceal oceans of meanings. Oceans of meanings. Now when you come to know Allah through these attributes, and each of the names of Allah refers to an attribute, a distinct attribute of Allah. So each quality is on its own, right? Maybe related to other names, but it evokes the term or the name evokes a specific characteristic of Allah Azza wa Jal. A quality. Infinite in its measure, in its magnitude, not like our qualities. Now what you're going to find out as we study the names of Allah, and here's why you're going to have to love Allah when you study His names. And this is magnificent. Allah is telling us, I want you to come to me, to love me, to adore me, to revere me and worship me. By studying my names and reflecting on them, you're going to find out how much I am present in your life. So by looking at each quality and reflecting on it, each quality will let you know how involved Allah is with that quality. You're going to come to see the intimate involvement of Allah in your life. His magnificence in your life, His beauty in your life, His mercy in your life. Every moment, His names are manifesting in our lives. So what happens when I study a name of His? Ar-Rahman, the merciful, the guide, Al-Hadi, the healer, the one who hears. All these names, when I see how they're operating in my own life, I start to see my dependence, utter dependence on Allah, and how much He's there for me. You fall in love with Allah Azza wa Jal. But because our minds are so disconnected from Allah, and we cannot read the signs of Allah in our lives. We've lost the ability to read not only the divine text, but the text in the creation, the signs of Allah. We cannot even read ourselves. How many of us really reflect upon, our souls, our hearts, our minds, our brains, how we're put together? How many of us take 5 minutes out of their day to just reflect and look at the tree as it bends and prostrates to Allah Azza wa Jal, or the clouds above us? How many of us are really connecting with any of these things? All the things that are around us are manifestations of the divine, manifestations of the beauty of Allah Azza wa Jal. Every single thing is a marvel, signature of Allah Azza wa Jal, speaking about one or multiple attributes of Allah. That's how He displays Himself in creation, through His attributes and names. So the more that you connect with them, the more you fall in love with Allah Azza wa Jal, that you draw nearer to Him. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said explicitly that to Allah belong 99 names. That doesn't mean that these are the only names. These are the names that we come to know about from the tradition of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Quran. He says He has 99 names. Whoever ahsaha, and ihsa, as we explained last time, is not mere memorization. We Muslims are obsessed with memorization, right? Quantifiable knowledge. We're not interested in reflection. We're not interested in substantive change. We're not interested in transformation of heart. We're not interested in hard work. We don't want to change our conduct, right? We want the easy way out. So what's the easy way out? Put on a garb. What's the easy way out? Put on a show. Look at somebody's appearance. Judge people. Judge yourself by these superficial standards. But the deep core changes in the heart and the soul are not easy to create. SubhanAllah. And they require effort. Effort, dear brothers and sisters. So Allah Azza wa Jal, dear brothers and sisters, furnished these magnificent names to all of us, and the Prophet ﷺ stated that we need to do what's called ihsa. And ihsa means deep, profound understanding, reflection, engagement of those names, seeing how they manifest in your life, and then taking it a step further, seeing how to embody those qualities in your own life. Wow, this is a dynamic interaction with the names. To the extent where you start loving the names and adoring the names. Where when you walk in this life and do any reflection upon anything around you, or when you experience any scenario in your life, automatically your mind jumps to these attributes, thinks of them, thinks of the manifestation of Allah. Your heart is feeling constricted, you think of the name the constrictor, the one who constricts the heart. Why does He constrict the heart? Your mind automatically jumps to the wise one. He's constricting my heart perhaps to make me feel the need for Him. Perhaps because I'm not praying. Perhaps because I'm not remembering Allah. So He constricted my heart to remember Him. Right? I'm thinking of my heart expanding. I think of the Al-Basit, the one who expands the heart. Right? I think of somebody struggling, finding their way, trying to find their way with Allah. I think of Al-Hadi, the only one who enlightens the heart. Allows us to find Him. We all say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. How did that happen? Because of Al-Hadi. The only one who can enlighten the heart and the mind to find Him is Allah Azza wa Jal. You see how automatically you start connecting your experiences? You're having a hard time finding a solution to a problem. And suddenly, when you swore that the problem couldn't be solved, Allah opened the door for you. How many times did that happen? How many of us instantly think, Al-Fattah, the one who opens the doors? That's what Allah wants us to do. that through the names we change as human beings. We become godly human beings, beautiful human beings who adore Allah and see Allah before we see anything else. We no longer look at the thing in life, at the creation, but we look at who? The Creator. When I have an ailment, I look at the one who heals the ailment. When my heart is struggling, I think of the guide. When I think of my fear, I think of the one who provides the security and the protection. I'm no longer paralyzed because I'm thinking of a greater deity with all of His attributes, His beauty, His magnificence. You'll inevitably change as a human being. We become really the people of Allah Azza wa Jal. So today we start with the most essential, the most powerful, the most significant of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah knows. It's infinite names, right? These are again the things that are comprehensible to us. So He furnished them to us. That's what will, subhanAllah, that's what we need in this life. So He gave us what we need. And each of the names once more fulfill our most essential needs. That's all you have to love Allah when you find out what these names mean. So today with the words of Bismillah, we begin everything with Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, don't we? In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Out of that expression, we extract what? 3 names of Allah right away, right? Think of them, what are they? Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. So I wanted to think right off the bat, before we even explain what these names mean. How many times do we utter those, or this expression? In our day? Numerous times. Well, each time you read the Quran, in your salah, you have to begin, even if secretly. Your Fatiha, you have to say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, right? So you're automatically saying it with every recitation of Al-Fatiha in your salah. Do you think there is a reason why we do this? Why did Allah place it right before or at the opening of every surah? Why is He requiring us to say it before every experience we begin? Every conversation, every encounter, every time we open a book, say Bismillah, say Bismillah. Every time we step into anywhere, say Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Why? Why do we say it that much? Clearly there is a reason, strong reason. It's because of the significance of this expression. It's the mark of Islam. It's the foundation of our faith is Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. The tragic thing is we have little understanding of the names in that expression. And if we are to understand the names in that expression, perhaps we'll begin to understand the significance of what? The expression of itself and how it will change our lives. So the purpose behind today's session, inshallah, is to leave it by Aisha time, being acquainted with or leaving with a new understanding of Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim. The hope, inshallah, the hope. I ask Allah that we become among the people of Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, but the genuine people of Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim. I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, if you comprehend this expression and say it with a profound understanding and full trust in what it means, your life will inevitably change. No doubt about it. This is the promise of Allah. Allah does not play jokes, dear brothers and sisters, with us. Allah does not mess around, wal-iyadu billah. If He places something at the beginning of His own words, rest assured, it's a treasure. And the reason He is having us utter it over and over, it's because it's a treasure. If we understood, it can heal and solve all of our problems. If we really understood. It's the rope to Allah. Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim. But if we're not even understanding what Allah means, or we have superficial understanding of it, or Ar-Rahman, or Ar-Rahim, and then we say Bismillah, right? Wow. How far do you go with this? Mere utterances of words. Words that are uttered by the mouth, but they don't penetrate into the heart and the soul. Meaningless. Unfortunately, our salah is like this. Our fasting is like this. Our conversations are like this. Our recitation of the Quran all are lifeless. That's why we don't change. That's why we don't have tranquility in the heart. That's why our minds are not thinking about Allah, because we don't care for reflection anymore, nor understanding. Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim is where we begin, and it's the most apt of beginnings, the best of beginnings. Because we know quite well that with Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, Allah's blessings come down. So let us say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim and start reflecting upon the word Allah. So Allah is the greatest name of Allah Azza wa Jal. The greatest name of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's why we need to start with the name Allah Azza wa Jal. It's the most supreme name of Allah. In a nutshell, it's a proper name. This is the personal name of Allah. the personal name of Allah. Is that clear? So Allah's personal name is Allah. Not Al-Kareem, not Al-Afu. His personal name, these are names that refer to His attributes. His personal name is Allah. Just as my personal name is Tarif, right? Just as somebody's personal name is Sa'id or Ruba. Personal names that refer to you. Allah's personal name is Allah, God's personal name. So when we mention the word Allah, we're referring to the creator of the heavens and the earth, the causer of this existence, who is not like anything in His creation. None or anything in His creation. The name has very fascinating features, which signifies that it's indeed the personal name of Allah, because He's not like anything in His creation, right? So it must be that the name itself is not like any other name. Make sense? Since it refers to Allah, and it's the personal name of Allah, nobody else can be having that name. So the name must have unique qualities. So what are these unique qualities? The name cannot be plural. It doesn't also refer to a gender. It's gender neutral. Unlike, what's the comparable word in English to refer to Allah? What do they say? They say God. But can we have plural for God? Gods, right? Can we have female version? God, goddess, right? Right off the bat, it's not unique. So the term God in English is not unique. It's not a personal name anymore. It can be turned plural or essentially feminine as well. Not unique. Allah is different. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Other interesting features of this name. Now, what we're going to get into right now are things that pertain to you and me. These are things that have to do with our relationship with Allah and how He deals with us and how this name is so relevant to us. How this name is desperately needed for all of us. How this name is a name that your heart and your soul yearn for. Your heart and your soul yearn for this name. They need this name. You need to say this name. Your heart is pounding, I need to say Allah. We'll understand now why. As we said, this is the personal name of Allah Azza wa Jal. A proper name. And it's a name that refers to His essence. The essence of Allah. What is different about this name in relation to the other names? Or as opposed to the other names? What is different? As we said, the other names of Allah, and we're going to get into them in the future, inshallah, refer to specific attributes of Allah Azza. Each name refers to an attribute. The one who heals, it refers to healing. The one who guides us refers to guidance. The powerful refers to power. The all-knowledgeable refers to knowledge. Specific qualities. The one who hears, hearing. The one who sees, seeing. What's different about the word Allah? Does it have a specific attribute? No, you notice it's not really. We're going to look at the origin of the word, but it's not referring to a specific attribute. So what's special about it then? Beyond being the name that refers to the essence of Allah, it's His personal name. What do you think? Who knows? This is powerful. By invoking this name, you're invoking someone special. And while we invoke the other names for specific help with something we need, so when we need guidance, we say, Ya Hadi. We need mercy, what do we say? Rahman, you're merciful. So when I say Ya Allah, what kind of qualities am I referring? What qualities do I need here? Jazakallah. This is powerful. How many of us are thinking of this? The fact that the word Allah, the name Allah, the personal name of Allah, encompasses, contains all the other names underneath it, such that none of them is left out. Can you imagine? Not just the 99, all the names of Allah, the infinite names of Allah. All of them are invoked at once you say Allah, coming to you, to your rescue. Wow. So while I'm referring again, or I'm invoking a specific quality with one name, what if I don't know any other name? Just say Ya Allah. And Allah comes to you with all of His powers. This is a unique feature of this name, and it automatically tells you how special the name is, isn't it true? What a bounty and a blessing from Allah. He taught us this name. I always refer to the example that if people of rank on earth do not share their names, they want you to call them by title. Isn't it true? Call me by title out of respect. Don't call me by personal name. Personal name means there's like, the barriers are removed between us. I need to keep the barrier and and the lines of respect. So refer to me by title. And once the titles are removed, that means the relationship has gotten what? Closer. Isn't that amazing? Closer. But even our parents, we don't refer to them by name. And it's actually, the Prophet ﷺ spoke of people who refer to their fathers by name. And this is a cursed practice. Allah dislikes it. So while He's telling us to your father, call them properly. And your mothers, don't call them by their personal names. It's disrespectful. Yet with Him, what does He say? Call me by my personal name. Isn't that extraordinary? Wow. What kind of nurture is this? Creator. How affectionate is He? That He removes the titles, the formalities between you and Him, yet with your own father and mother, He says, refer to them as Baba, Mama, or whatever it is in other languages, right? Allah, with Allah, the Creator, the Nurturer, the Rabb al-Alameen. He says, call me by my person, just as Allah. Ya, not Ya Baba to your father, Ya Allah. Look at how powerful it is. It fills your mouth and it fills your heart and your soul. But Allah's telling you, once you invoke my name, I'm at your service. But I'm not just coming with one or two attributes now at you. I'm coming with all of them. Available to you at your service. Who else would do this? Other than a loving, merciful Creator. Nurture. He calls Himself Rabb. I am your Lord, as He says to Musa, when He introduced Himself to Musa. In the valley, in Tuwa, the valley of Tuwa. What does He say? Inni ana Rabbuk. He says, essentially He's hearing this voice and He's astounded. How does He introduce Himself? He says, I am your Creator, Nurturer. Your. Personalized it. I know you by name. It's not, the fact that I have gazillion creation, infinite creation, doesn't mean I am just a ruler who has minimal knowledge of His creation. No. Intimate. Each and every one of them has a personal relationship with Allah. And He's aware of you, and hears you and sees you every moment. And He wants you to call Him by His name. And Allah loves it when you call Him by His personal name. Isn't that amazing? Just as with, ask fathers and mothers, when your kids call you by, daddy and mom, you're happy. Just the invocation of the word makes you happy. It has a special a vibe to it. It has a ring. SubhanAllah, dear brothers and sisters, Allah, when He hears His name invoked by somebody who's yearning for Him, pleading for Him, He's happy. Look at, automatic, without going further, the generosity of Allah by allowing us to know His personal name. He could have hidden the name from us. And says maybe one day you'll find out what that great name of mine is. Because it's improper for you to call me by my personal name. Not Allah Azza wa Jalla. So it has all the other names and none of them is left out when you invoke Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's the most specific of the names of Allah. Since no one other than Allah can use it. While the other ones can be used by others. So the fact of the matter is that human beings can appropriate some meaning from the other names. So you have some power, you can be called powerful. Or as some historic figures, the powerful, the magnificent, right? So you're patient, people start associating the term with you because of your patience. To the extent where somebody can be called the patient one, the beautiful one, the generous one, right? So, to the extent that these qualities are exhibited by you, generosity, kindness, love, mercy, power, knowledge, you start acquiring portion of those terms, to the extent where people start calling you by these names. Now, the way we use it with humans is not like the way we use it with Allah. So when somebody would call it the knowledgeable one, is not like Allah the knowledgeable. Big difference. Allah has absolute, or displays absolute, this quality in absolute sense. Infinite measure, not like us. His knowledge is infinite, not like our finite knowledge. His kindness is not human kindness. Incomprehensible. His love is not like our love. His mercy is not like our mercy. But the terms can be used. Not Allah. No one else can be called Allah. So it's a name that is not shared by the rest of creation, while the rest of the names can be shared. Allah, because it's the unique personal name of Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's not shared, right? And every other name is in relationship to that name. Nobody else can be called that, right? So we don't say it's one of the names of Allah. Because it's His personal name. Yet it's the name of Allah. So it's not a name of Allah, it's the name of Allah. Right? So for convenience, we say the greatest name of Allah because we need to talk about it, but it's really not one of the other names. So Allah, when we say Allah, do you get confused? Who are we talking about? God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. I don't get confused. But if I said the king, there are multiple kings. He's different type of king than kings on earth. But, so the king becomes a term that what? Refers here to someone. And the names of Allah are the attributes that refer to Allah, the original name. Does that make sense? So Allah is not defined in relationship to the other names, but the other names are defined in relationship to who? Allah. And there's something significant, we covered this last time. Allah Azza wa Jal, the attributes that He elevated to become names, why did He call Himself with these names? Because they become absolutes with Him. It means that Allah is displaying that quality in completeness, in perfection. And He wants us to understand that He can never violate those qualities. Does that make sense? So, it's a mercy of Allah that He's calling Himself with these names. It means this quality is so affixed to Allah that He cannot be displaying its opposite or violating it, excuse me. He can actually display opposites, right, in different scenarios. Qabid, basit, constrictor, expander, right? For a reason, he operates with these qualities. But nonetheless, rest assured, Allah will not violate His qualities and will use them appropriately, according to His wisdom. Once again, it's the personal name of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So listen to Allah's challenge now. This is a beautiful challenge in the Quran. So we know that we've never run across any human being called Allah. Isn't that amazing? Even atheists. Have you ever run across anybody daring to call themselves Allah? Nobody does. Right? Look at Allah's challenge. Eternal, timeless challenge in the Quran. If somebody wanted to just prove Allah wrong or prove the Quran wrong, all you have to do is just go challenge that verse. Right? Like Abu Lahab, when the revelation came down to talk about him and his wife, declaring that they're essentially they're eternally damned, right? Well, all Abu Lahab had to do is just come and take his shahada. To say, well, your Lord doesn't know anything. I just took my shahada. Allah literally made him dumb, not even to understand. Because Allah's challenge cannot be overcome by anybody. So in this particular case, He poses another challenge. So He says, رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. He is describing Himself by saying, the Lord of the heavens and the earth. The creator and the nurturer of the heavens and the earth, وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا, and what is between them. فَعْبُدْهُ وَاصْطَبِرْ لِعِبَادَتِهِ. So worship Him and be persistent and constant in worshipping Allah. هَلْ تَعْلَمُ لَهُ سَمِيًّا. He's asking, do you know anyone with a name like His name? Let your imagination go. Think about all creation. Think of all human beings. There are two challenges here. Number one, He says, do you know of anybody who carries the same name? Zero. You can't. And then He says, do you know anybody who displays all these attributes? Have you ever thought of this question? Look at the magnificence of Allah. Why He really deserves to be worshipped and loved and adored. No one possesses qualities like Allah's qualities. No one. Just for that alone, we just need to adore Allah. Because we adore people with good qualities. We like them. We like to be close to good people. Right? We think about them, we reflect on them, we learn from them. We like to receive their goodness. Well, Allah Azza wa Jal is the originator of these qualities. And possesses all of them in perfection. So He's asking, do you know of anybody else who has them? None. And He's posing the challenge to say, until the end of time, nobody will dare to have my name. SubhanAllah, I keep wondering about this verse. That really, even those who blaspheme, take partners with Allah or deny the existence of Allah, nobody's ever come up saying, you know what, I'm going to make a challenge here. I'm going to call myself Allah. Right? Even Fir'aun just called himself, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la. I am your God. But he didn't even call himself Allah, right? And you know what happened to him. So we know the deal. Perhaps people are learning the lesson, right? Destroyed. In terms of the origin of the word, there is a theory. One of the theories is that the origin of the word itself, its derivation, is that the word itself is composed of two components. The definite article the, this is a theory about its origin. And it's not the only one. The, al, the definite article, and what's left? If I took out the al, what's left in the word Allah? Ilah, exactly. So, in English, the God, right? Al-Ilah, right? That's one of the theories about the origin of the word. So, essentially, it's referring to the sole deity, God, Allah Azza wa Jal. And it's an interesting feature that, look at, subhanAllah, even in other religions, they still refer to Allah as Allah, but in other ways. So, in other words that share the same origin as Allah Azza wa Jal, the word Allah Azza wa Jal. So, you'll find in Hebrew the word Elohim. And Elohim, interestingly enough, is actually a variation of Allah. It's a variation of Allah. But guess what's different? So automatically it implies the theology that they have about Allah and how different it is than our theology. It's a plural form of Allah Azza wa Jal. So automatically you start understanding there are differences theologically in the word. So it's not like Allah. It's a derivative. It shares the same origin, but it's not the same. Even in the Sikh or Sikh scriptures, there are 37 references to the word Allah or variation of the word Allah. SubhanAllah. So you'll find it in other traditions as well. They're still referring to God. Even though their conception of God is different, they're still referring to Him as Allah or Elohim or whatever the term they have. Another fascinating thing is that we don't have to go far. Where did Islam descend or the Quran descend? People of Arabia. Well, guess what? The people of Arabia called Allah before Islam came. Allah. Muhammad's father, his name is Abdullah. They used Allah to refer to the supreme deity. They believed in Allah as the creator, as the one who gives provision and rain, the supreme deity. But they said, you know what? There are also sub-deities. So we're going to worship them as well. So sure, we'll acknowledge Him as the greatest of them, but there are other partners, associates of Allah Azza, like Al-Lat wal-Uzza, the idols. So they came up with their own idols to associate them with Allah Azza. So even though they're referring to the name, it is different usage. Nonetheless, it's the same word. Now, living with this name, we've covered different features and qualities, and the most essential, once more, is just the mere utterance of the word and what it invokes. This is the most essential to understand about the word Allah Azza wa Jal. Invoking, as we said, the word Allah automatically invokes all the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I ask you, practically now, how many of us really, when we say Ya Allah, think of as many names and attributes as we can? On the spot, at that particular moment when you're saying Allah, how many of us? Perhaps we rarely do this, if at all, right? That's the tragic thing when we use the word Allah. It's the most healing word we can use. It heals you, it nourishes you, it fulfills your own innate needs, spiritual needs. You have an internal yearning, right? The stomach wants to be fed. The soul and the heart want Allah. And they're yearning for Him. And when you say just Allah, they're nourished instantly. Instantly. So it is satisfying your internal yearnings just by merely saying Ya Allah. It heals. SubhanAllah, it feels good when you say Allah, don't you? And you notice when you utter the word, there's no obstruction in your mouth. SubhanAllah, this is miraculous. Amazing. One of the features of the word is that all the sounds in it are characterized by what? Free flow of air. Is there any obstruction like the consonants? E, U. Free flow of air from your tract. Right? Notice Allah. Say it. Allah. Free flow of air. Free flow of air. SubhanAllah. Comfort right away just by mere utterance of the word. There are no obstructive sounds in it. Nor do you have to close your lips. Right? You don't have to do any of this. Allah. And of course, just the mere utterance of the word is comforting. No other word like it. And Allah of course says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Indeed, with the remembrance of Allah, the mere mention of His name, your hearts will come to rest. So there's a spiritual rest. There's emotional rest. But subhanAllah, without you even understanding the word, just by repeating it, Allah, Allah, and focusing a little bit, you'll find your own heart to come to rest. Has to. SubhanAllah. Incredible word. Magnificent word. The phrase Bismillah, we'll just cover a few points about the expression itself. Because as I said, if we know how to practice Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, we'll be transformed human beings. We will not be normal human beings. We'll become extraordinary human beings. We'll become people of Allah. But it's not mere utterance of the expression, but living the words when we say them, reflecting upon their meanings, the connections to Allah, what Allah means. If we just start reflecting on the word Allah as we say Bismillah, you're going to find different experiences in your life. Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. As we know, it's the first expression of Islam. Why do I say this? Bism, right? In the name of your Lord. Why am I saying it's the first? The mark of Islam. Because the first verse in the Quran said what? Iqra, recite. Bismi Rabbik. In the name of your Lord, recite. The first imperative that came from Allah to the Prophet ﷺ, the first command, with it began this ocean of blessings from Allah, connecting the heavens to the earth. On that encounter in the cave, what is he? Jibreel holds him and says, Iqra, recite, read, proclaim, in the name. And you cannot just do any normal proclamation or recitation. It's not going to be blessed. It's not going to go far. Nothing will go far. Begin it in the name of the one who created, who nurtures, your Lord, the one who created everything. SubhanAllah. So it marked Islam. It's a signature of Islam. The first words indeed taught to the Prophet ﷺ, in the name of your Lord. The Prophet ﷺ literally said, Kullu amr, every matter, dibal, every significant matter in our lives, لا يبدأ ببسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فهو أبتر أو كما قال رسول الله. He says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at this, pay attention to this hadith. Because if we understand this hadith, we'll understand the blessings of this expression. He says, every significant matter in your life that is not begun with, in the name of Allah, Bismillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful, it's cut off. Why is it cut off? Who is the one who causes anything to exist or operate? Who allows the sun to move and the earth to move around it and so forth? Who allows the clouds to flow? Who allows us to walk, talk, think? Who allows anything to happen? Allah. So he's saying every affair, and every affair is in the hands of Allah. We cannot take a step forward without Allah's permission. All you have to do is suspend the operation inside of you. The nervous system breaks down, you cannot even move your limbs. Something hits your brain, concussion, you cannot think. Right? Isn't that amazing? You cannot even laugh or smile at your own will. If you're sad, nothing can make you smile. Allah can. Sometimes we want to say something and our tongues get tied up. Right? What if we remember something, it's like, oh, I can't remember the name. Who's making things possible or impossible? Allah. So he's saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every matter that is of significance, that is not begun with his name, because he is the one who causes the causes, all of them. He's the causer of the causes. In his hands belongs everything, all power. So if you don't begin with his name, it's cut off from Allah. You're on your own. This is the Prophet is telling us, make sure you say, I say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and I'm invoking Allah with all of his powers. How many of us reflect on the powers that just came to you when you invoked Allah's name? With full trust. Allah literally came to me right now with all of his powers to my rescue. Infinite powers, with all of his attributes and qualities. It really does anchor you. Anchor you. That's why we're asked to say this expression before we speak, before we sit, before we stand, when we enter into a conversation or enter into a room. Say Bismillah. Before you lift up a pen and start answering questions in an exam, say Bismillah. Right? Before you even begin a process of thinking about anything, say Bismillah. Because Allah is the causer of causes. And it gives you an anchor in your life. It's really powerful. You're purposeless without Bismillah. It reminds you of who? Allah. Right? Who am I without Allah? I'm a little orphan. You know an orphan walking without parents? Doesn't know where they're going. And they're restless all the time. They have no significance, no meaning in their life. Allah says, say Bismillah, it reminds you who you are. You belong to me. It gives you purpose, a mission, a direction. Your life takes on meaning instantly when you say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Wow, all of this happens with Bismillah, yes. If we're thinking and reflecting. I like to use the example of a screw, because it's so tiny and can be insignificant or significant. You throw a screw onto the ground, you hit it with your foot and you don't care about it. Insignificant, has no purpose. Purposeless. But that screw can be taken and what? Placed where? Hold two things together and use it in a structure. Can allow a car to operate. Or a plane to fly. And you remove those screws, the plane will fall down. Will fall. But suddenly when the screw is screwed into the plane to hold its wings, what happens? It has purpose. It's significant. And it is happy to serve its purpose. Without Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, we're like that screw on the ground. With Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim, we're connected to Allah. You have purpose, you understand where you fit in. And you're happy because you're serving your purpose. I belong to Allah by Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim. And suddenly look at the happiness it should give you. See, Allah's not joking with us. Wallahi, Allah wants us to be lifted up. He wants to elevate us, make us happy, joyous. We're one of 7 billion on earth. 7 billion people. You know why most people are depressed? Because they think they're insignificant. Nobody cares about them. They're hopeless. Especially when they have no families around them, nobody to care for them, to ask about, how are you doing today? They become miserable, in despair. Many of them commit suicide. Purposeless life, meaningless. I have no idea where I came from, where I'm going, and there's no one around me. Like that screw on the ground. Allah says, no, you belong to me. 7 billion people, but you matter to me. You're known to me by name. I know you. I listen to you. I hear you. I see you. But you might forget about me. And when you forget, you're the one who becomes miserable. Because we start thinking we're alone. Allah says, I want you to remember who you are. You belong to me. You're significant. Even though mathematically you're insignificant. Mathematically, right? You're one of trillions. But significant to Allah. But how to remember this? He says, as soon as you remember me, you'll feel better. Because you start belonging or remembering your identity. Who you are. But how to remember Allah Azza wa Jal? By mentioning His name. So He said, say Bismillah. And you'll instantly connect with me. Human beings give us few shots at something. Allah never does. Remember when we spoke about even His mercy, today's khutbah? Infinite, all-encompassing. He does not violate it for one moment. Every single moment of your life, Allah's mercy is coming down onto you. And He always leaves His door open. Forever. And you know what's extraordinary about Allah Azza wa Jal? See, when we lose things in life, we think we can never recover. Suppose you've really messed up, let's say on your education, you didn't learn, you didn't pursue a good career, you didn't do anything. So you're going to be sitting all day thinking, oh my goodness, I really messed up, I didn't learn anything. How can you recover? Career-wise, really, it's hard to think how you can recover from physical standards. Look at Allah, tells you. Mountain of sins, reaching the clouds, right? You come and say, Astaghfirullah. Sincerely, He says, erase it all. Not only just, it's okay, I am accepting you. He says, no, complete recovery. In fact, I'll turn the bad deeds into good deeds. It's beyond generosity. One moment with Allah, because you see with Allah, the equation is different. Allah appreciates everything. And Allah is infinite. So deeds for Him are infinite. So that means if I come in one moment, despite all the mess-ups in my life, miserable life, horrible, I've really messed up with Allah Azza wa Jal. He says it doesn't matter. You see, one moment with me because I'm the creator of the heavens and the earth, my generosity is infinite, my mercy is infinite. So guess what? How I treat you has to be in the same way. I cannot violate this because I'm the most merciful. I'm not like somebody else's mercy or generosity. So when you come to me, I have to treat you in kind. So now when you come back to me and you say, Ya Allah, take me back. He says, I'll erase everything in your past. In fact, I'll turn your past into a source of hope for you. To the extent where we hear in the hadith that the man comes to Allah Azza wa Jalla, the human being comes to Allah Azza wa Jalla, they have so many sins in their record, but they're repentant from those sins. So they come to Allah Azza wa Jalla and they're feeling awful, like, I stopped with Allah Azza wa Jalla. So Allah will tell them to open their books, and they'll open their books. And they'll start reading. And He says, read. And He reads about the first mess up, the sin, and then the second sin. And they're going to be saying to themselves, I'm going to hell. That's it. Look at what I've done. They know it. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla will let them go back in the record. And they realize that for each bad deed, it got replaced with a good deed. And they'll be confused. What happened? It's because of their repentance, by the way. They become so happy after they realize that the repentance is turning the bad deeds into good deeds to the extent where the man will tell Allah, oh Allah, there are other bad deeds that I have that they didn't write here. Because they're seeing the generosity. This is generosity of Allah. Infinite generosity is not normal. And the 100 mercies of Allah that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about are waiting as soon as we die to be descending, to flow onto creation. All what we experience is one mercy of Allah. We'll talk about the name Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim next time, inshallah. That's one mercy of Allah. He saved up 99 plus the other mercy. Each mercy covers the space between the heavens and the earth. So absolutely one moment with Allah, one moment. He just says, come to me sincerely in that moment. I'll transform you completely. I'll erase all of your pain. All of it. No grief. You don't have to even worry or think about it. Isn't that incredible hope? The only one who gives us infinite hope is Allah Azza wa Jalla, not like human beings. And not like any other experience we can have. And what's better than thinking, subhanAllah, in 1 minute, 1 moment I can recover completely. Not only just recover, be ahead. Isn't that amazing? So I will be ahead of everybody by merely taking advantage of special moments with Allah. What happens to us, however? We pass up the special moments. How many moments in our day pass by without us being conscious with Allah? Look at the salah. How many moments in it? Every second you can remember Allah's name. How many of those have passed without our hearts being in it, living it, understanding? That moment of remembrance of Allah can wipe out all the bad past and project you or send you, thrust you forward ahead of everybody. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said, سَبِقَ الْمُفَرِّدُونَ. Those who say La ilaha illallah, remember Allah, by remembering His oneness and uniqueness, are ahead of everybody else. Because they're remembering the most incredible quality about Allah, His uniqueness and oneness. And Allah appreciates that so much. His appreciation is not like our appreciation. So sure, you forgot, and Allah created us to be forgetful. He says this. And that's why He says, keep reminding, it's okay. But every time you remember, Allah inshaAllah wipes out. No matter how many times you mess up, He'll say, I'll wipe it. I'll erase it. But keep remembering. And that's why it's essential to be surrounded by people who remind us. Because let's say you forget the Bismillah. Well, the first time you'll forget it, maybe you'll remember. But then it becomes a habit. Before you know it, you're not saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now you find your own child saying Bismillah. Say, oops, I need to say Bismillah. But maybe your child didn't learn it from you. You need believers around you. That's why it's essential to stay in a company. Good company. That reminds you of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That beautify you. That make you better, smarter. That make you somebody who sees Allah all the time. There are other groups of people who do what? Disconnect you. Remind you of everybody but Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's the most dangerous situation we can be in life. Now, interestingly enough, and I'd like to share this as an example for all of us to reflect on. When we say Allah, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, we've literally bound or connected our infinite needs to the infinite powers of Allah. Look at how helpless we are, weak. All of us are weak. I mean, if you were to count your needs right now, how many would you identify? My goodness. All kinds of things. We want our work to be better, we want our kids to be knowledgeable and be healed, and our mothers, fathers, money, house, healing, infinite needs. Those we know and those we don't know, right? Subhanallah, you say Bismillah, Allah with all of His powers just came to you. You just recruited Him to be on your side, to cover those holes that you have. And the greater your trust in those powers, the greater the rescue from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now all creation around us is successful, is able to do what it does because it's doing it in the name of Allah, but we do not comprehend its language. So the cloud is capable of doing its job constantly around the clock, carrying tons of water because it does it in the name of Allah Azza wa Jalla. You see the sun? Do you ever see the sun violating its path? Never. Isn't that amazing? I mean, if you really think about it, it's phenomenal. How would the sun and the moon? Allah Azza wa Jalla says it in Surat Ar-Rahman. الشمس والقمر بحسبان. He says it's a sign for you. Look at the moon, it never violates its path. To the point where it's so perfectly calculated and set in its path, you can use it to come up with your own calendar. That's how precise it is. The sun's motion and the earth's motion are so precise, you can have a calendar based on their motion. Wow, what kind of discipline is this? Who allows them to do this? They're doing it both in the name of Allah. So they say in the name of Allah and they worship and adore Allah. In His name they do what they do and they're successful at it. The bee produces all the honey in the name of Allah. The ant carries loads that are many times its own weight in the name of Allah. They do miraculous things. We're the only ones with choice. When we're left or disconnected from the name of Allah, we're the most dysfunctional creature. The most corrupt. We are mess. Creation, they're doing their job, we can't do our job. But when we say in the name of Allah, we're elevated above creation. And we become the most extraordinary of the creation of Allah Azza wa Jalla. In the name of Allah, all creation does this. Another extraordinary feature of this name. Look at all these things that should come to your mind. SubhanAllah, miraculously coming to you. Just by the invocation of this expression. That's how powerful the expression is. When you say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, so you remembered Allah. But what does it do about your intention? I say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, I start talking. It happens to my intention. If I'm really conscious of what I said, what does it do to my heart? Right, it makes me look at Allah. It reminds me of Allah, the destination, the one that matters. So really, if you're conscious of the expression, it should orient your heart towards who? Allah. So the action, if it's sincere, what happens to the action? It's accepted by Allah. And it's blessed. And blessings are not something we can inject into the action. Wow, if Allah blesses something, it's multiplied in a secret way that we cannot quantify. Multiplied, blessed, become successful. Because Allah decided. But if you don't invoke His name, first, you might be doing it for ulterior motives. I might be trying to, saying something nice to Him, but not really for the sake of Allah, just because I want Him to like me. Just for that. It's not like me wanting to do this to please Allah Azza wa Jalla. But when I say Bismillah, consciously, thoughtfully, the heart just connected with Allah. Oh Allah, I just remembered, I'm doing this for your sake. So it brings up the intention, purifies and cleanses your heart from any other motivation. Automatically. But only when we think of it consciously. Instant purification from anything else in the heart or your mind. What else does it do? Let's think of ego. Me. We're self-centered. All we think about is us. We're the center of the world. We're concerned about everything that has to do with us. Right? What happens when you say Bismillah? What happens to the ego? Who did you just remember? Allah. You remembered Allah. You just focus on His magnificence, beauty, greatness. Suddenly you shrink. Because you're remembering someone much bigger than you. What happens to your ego? Eliminated. The best ego diffuser is Bismillah. It shuts out your ego. You cannot be arrogant by saying Bismillah. It's impossible unless you're really not understanding the expression. So it's hard for somebody to, become self-centered when they're saying Bismillah all the time. It cannot. They cannot coexist. Allah and arrogance cannot coexist. Right? So instantly, if you're conscious, subhanAllah, your ego is out of the window. And it humbles you. And by the way, that's a blessing. If you find yourself experiencing humility, thank Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's a quality so beloved to Allah. Saying Bismillah reminds you of how tiny you are, fragile, how weak and helpless, and how much you need Allah Azza wa Jalla. But it cannot happen if you're not mentioning His name by Bismillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And another powerful thing that it does is that concerning the deed or the word that you're about to say. If I said Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, what do you think is going to happen to the words that come out of my mouth in terms of their quality? Notice in the Quran we learn something amazing. We say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then what kind of speech do we say? The words of who? Allah. Allamahul Bayy. He taught us articulation. Then to read His own words, He says, begin with my name. My words begin with my name, the best speech. So we learn with Bismillah to say the best speech. What lesson do we learn here about other speech? When we say Bismillah, it better be what? Good. How can you say Bismillah and curse? Is it logical? Have you ever seen somebody saying Bismillah Ar-Rahman? Go at it creatively. I've never seen anybody cursing by subhanAllah commencing with Bismillah Ar-Rahman Rahim. Let's begin the session of cursing. Or yell at somebody, or be angry with somebody, have you ever really seen it? Have you found yourself doing this? Don't you notice it calms you down? Bismillah, it has to calm you down. and it compels you to do what's pure and good. If you're conscious of it. SubhanAllah, automatically, you notice by the way, people that are angry if you remind them of Allah, say, no, don't bring up Allah. No, right? Because they know somehow when you do this, you have to like chill. Make salah upon the Prophet. I don't want to make salah upon the Prophet. I want to be angry, right? Because mere remembrance of these names has to calm you down. SubhanAllah, in the heart calms down. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. But you have to also do the right thing. You're not going to go beat up somebody, bash them, talk bad about them, put somebody down by starting the incredible conversation with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's not going to happen. And by the way, we didn't cover Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim later yet. Imagine now when we say Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the most merciful, and then I inject or inflict harm, right? Well, I just said the merciful. It cannot happen. The most beautiful of beginnings implies what? The most beautiful actions and deeds. Now think about your own behavior and conduct and words, what will happen to them if you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Isn't that amazing? It changes you as a human being. The term or the expression beautifies you, humanizes you, makes you an extraordinary human being, a servant of Allah. Servant of Allah Azza with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we've just covered few of the treasures of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Few of the treasures. You know what else? It makes you overcome your own indifference. You know, a lot of, especially the younger generation, many in the young crowd have become very apathetic. I don't care. Like the attitude of I don't care about anything. Everything is beneath me. To the extent where when you bring up something important, they say, Mere me giving attention to you right now lowers me. So I have to show apathy. Right? It's cool to be apathetic. Cool. Not to give anything any attention. How can you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and be indifferent? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? It can't. You notice focus, empowerment, strength, Bismillah. Even the term itself it makes you get up, right? Bismillah. It humbles, softens you, orients your heart towards Allah, reminds you of Him, connects you to Him, blesses the deed, but also it's serious. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You're on a mission now. Your conversations will never be the same. Your thinking will never be the same. Your eating and drinking will never be the same. When you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you remember the blessings of Allah. When I hold an apple and say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I just remembered Allah who created it. Oh, suddenly the eating is not the same way. With each bite you remember Allah. So it goes into your body with blessings. Amazing. Subhanallah. That becomes an act of worship. Everything becomes an act of worship. Your entire time has been transformed into a blessed time that turns into infinite blessings and fruits for you with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's why when you go to bed, what do we say? Bismika Allahumma amutu wa ahya. In the name of Allah. Oh Allah, I die and I get up. Suddenly, even in your sleep, when you're not aware or conscious of anything, you're worshipping Allah. How can I be worshipping Allah if I'm right? Allah's generosity. Because you began the process with Bismillah, Allah's going to bless your sleep. You're not worshipped. Do you think you're going to get up in the same way? No way. Impossible. Allah will do wonders with you when you're asleep. If you start with Bismillah when you go to bed, just say tonight, Bismillah. But say it consciously. Think of the beauty of sleep right now, being worship of Allah. Think of you getting up in the name of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Your entire life is changed. Your day and night are changed with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your heart settles. You want sadness to get out of your heart? Say Bismillah. Say Bismillah. Remember Allah Azza wa Jalla. It really reminds you of who created you and how much we need Allah Azza wa Jalla. It reminds you of His greatness, His beauty, His majesty, His power. And we need the help, dear brothers and sisters. We cannot succeed in our missions in life at any task without Bismillah. You're about to meet somebody who's tough, and you don't know how you're going to convince them to help you, your mother, your father, or your boss. Say Bismillah before the conversation. You have a problem with somebody and you don't know how they're going to forgive you. Say Bismillah and begin the conversation. Bismillah all the time before you eat and drink and sleep and you get up. Bismillah. Bismillah. For any task. You'll see how the task itself is transformed and how your heart will become tranquil. And those fears and worries are out of the window. But none of these things will occur if you're saying it in what condition? Thoughtlessly, just as the salah. See, the salah is supposed to transform us. But because our hearts are absent from it, We leave in the same way, right? Mechanical. I'm afraid that the expression Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim became mechanical. Mere words that come out of the mouth, it's a habit. Nothing more, nothing less. What we're neglecting or what we're losing in the process is infinite treasures of Allah that literally transform your entire life when you say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Fills your mouth, fills your heart. Wallahi, say it, dear brothers and sisters. So what I leave you with is, and this is a wrap for the name Allah. And again, it's the name that encompasses all the other names. We begin inshallah next time, and we're going to refer to another name that refers to the essence of Allah, Ar-Rahman. It's essential to understand. And you'll understand that, or you'll see that the other names are related to Allah and Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. That's why we study them first. They're essential to understand because they encompass all the other names. The mercy of Allah encompasses all the other names as well. That's why we'll study it next time inshallah. But the homework, what we take home with us is what? Something practical. Because otherwise, this is an academic session. Meaningless. If we're not going to get out of here, we're here. Wallahi, dear brothers and sisters, we are present here at this moment, on this day, by the blessings of Allah and His grace. He brought us here. Act of mercy from Allah. Allah wants us to call us by His name. It's one of the most beloved things you can do, to say His name. And you'll find Allah at your service, rescuing you, plucking you out of any difficult situation, and inshallah being there for you to heal your heart. But say the word Allah. You're in pain? Go practice just saying Allah. Allah. And remember what you need from Allah. And remember His powers when you mention the word Allah. But pay reverence and respect to it. Don't just say it. When you're saying it, I want you to think of something. Alhamdulillah, Allah allowed my tongue to say His name. How many tongues on earth are deprived of saying His name? Infinite. Many. Billions. Can't say the word Allah. Allah blessed your tongue to say it. And enlightened your heart to be thankful. The greater your reverence and awe of the word, the greater the blessings. So I want you to practice saying Allah and to say Bismillah consciously tonight before you go to bed and before any conversation. Wallahi, dear brothers and sisters, let this be the mode of our life inshallah in the next few days. And see what happens with you. 7 days from now we're going to cover the next set of names that comprise the expression what? Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So we're going to say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. But next time inshallah, new meanings will emerge that will inshallah inform our understanding of Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim to transform our experience with it. We want to become people of what? Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Before you speak to your spouse, your child, you make dua, you do anything, say Bismillah. Say Bismillah before you write or read, eat or drink, say it consciously and see what happens with you. Remember Allah Ajal, dear brothers and sisters. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless our gathering tonight. May Allah increase us in knowledge. May Allah make us among the people of Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. May Allah bestow His infinite mercy upon all of us, upon our parents and children and siblings and community. May Allah Azza wa Jal heal our hearts. May Allah Azza wa Jal fulfill our needs. May Allah Azza wa Jal bring us close to Him. May Allah Azza wa Jal fulfill the needs of our brothers and sisters across the world. May Allah Azza wa Jal remove their hardship from their way. May Allah Azza wa Jal feed the hungry among them and heal their sick. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant them the healing that they need. May Allah Azza wa Jal unite all of us. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless this community, bless this masjid, and make us among the people that serve Him night and day. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept us among the righteous. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us among the people of Jannah. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us among those who remember Him night and day. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless every conversation and every word that comes out of our mouth and every deed that we do. May Allah purify our intentions. May Allah Azza wa Jal bring us to the door of Jannah in the companionship of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and allow us to enter under His shade on the day of judgment and to be happy when we see His face. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. Keep making dua and dhikr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.